It was no homework. It was to enjoy, to rest, relax, rejuvenate yourself. I hope it was good. I hope so. Oh, and you made my favorite student. So as soon as my two people that are doing their quiz get done, I will actually hand you back last week's quizzes. Okay? And they were okay. I can't say that they were. Now, some of you did very well, but then some it was just like when it was like, I don't know, let's say it's -2 minus 3, and you're giving me answers of like 617,241. It's like, it's just new to me. So that's what we have. So let's see. Some of you might still be missing the summer packet. And so now it's counting against you if you don't have it in. I made a new due date on it, so you can still turn it in, but I put the goose egg in, that's what's called a 0, just to kind of light that fire a little bit, which is fine. It's just, Ryan, I'm going to put the blank notes in this and watch the video later, okay? One part was worth 24, one part was worth 14. Okay? Yeah, somewhere in there. There is in 2 different columns, 2 different things listed. All right, so when you get your quiz back in a little bit, there's a few things to kind of take note of. Okay? Understand that if you did nothing to prepare for this and you did poorly, don't expect to continue to do the same thing and get different results. Okay? Now, if you really studied hard and you did poorly, you and I have to have a conversation. However that looks, we have to have that conversation. Not because you're in trouble. We just need to figure out a better game plan so you find success in this class. Now, next item. Does anybody have any old homework they need to give me that I hadn't given out or hadn't picked up from you? So if you have any old, let me collect that as well and make sure we're good. Okay? And let's take I gave you all notes, right? You're good to go? Make sure your name is on anything you're handed into me so I can make sure I give you credit to where credit is due, please. So Friday, we will, right there, please. Friday, you will have a sub who will be here. And again, my theory with subs, something right there. Thank you. My theory with subs, and I was in high school once, was I remember long ago, right there. Perfect. I still remember the class. Mr. Huber was my math teacher. He was also my football coach. And I can tell you that myself as well as many others were not well behaved. And we made the sub cry. Okay? So, of course, I'm 16 years old and thought it was funny that I made a sub cry along with my friends. Now, back in the 80s, coaches could get away with a lot more than now. But I will just tell you that Coach Huber made myself and the rest of the O-line that was in that class run until we puked and then run some more because we made the sub cry. Now, I can't do that to you. I really can't. And I'm just kind of telling you that I do understand if you have that idea of going, oh, this would be funny, and though you walk out with a good story, you don't want the repercussions. So just please, and that's why today, with today's day and age, I can make a video. Yeah.
How long did you last with the running?
It was. Have you ever heard of it's? This is the inappropriate term.
Suicides?
No, it's called an Indian run, but I just call it a friend run now because an Indian run is it's disrespectful to Native Americans. But how it goes is we all lined up in a row and start jogging down around the track. We're on a track. So the person who's in the very back of the line, you have to sprint to the front. And then when that person gets to the front, the next person sprints to the front and keeps going. So we were about 2.5 miles in before the first person puked. And it was about 112 that day. It was Arizona. So Arizona was hot. Yeah, it was tough. We were in full pads too. He made us be in full pads, have our helmet on, keep your mouth guard in. And I hated Coach Huber after that. Yeah. So back in the day in Arizona, they used to reward you with water, even though there was commercials on TV that would say you can't last in the desert in the middle of summer for more than an hour without water. But yet we'd be 90 minutes into practice without water. I mean, your mouth guard would be stuck in your mouth. You're like, I took that out, coach. It'd be adhered to your teeth. It sucked. And unfortunately, there was a couple people my last season playing when I was a junior in high school. I couldn't play after that. I got a stinger in my neck. Dropped my head on a tackle. Not supposed to do that. So, well, that's the wrong slide. But, so anyhow, I didn't play after that, but it's good stuff. But unfortunately, it wasn't on our team. There's a couple of teams during 2-a-days. We used to have 2 practices a day. You have it 8 in the morning and then at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of August in Arizona. It's about 119, 120 degrees. You're outside in full pads. They reward you with water. You're making mistakes on drills because you're delirious. Right? They were cuckoo back then. But anyhow, let's start on some notes. First off, let's talk about an absolute value. Does anyone want to take a shot at what absolute value means? Yeah.
How far away it is from zero.
Awesome. How far away it is from zero. So an absolute value, if something is in absolute value signs, that just means you're talking about how far something is away from zero. Okay? So it could be in a negative direction, but like if you had like how far is -5 away from 0? It's 5 units away. How far is 7 from 0? It's 7 units away. How far is -100 away from 0? It's 100 units away. See how I'm doing that with the negatives? Whoops, I'm going to the wrong screen. Go here. Nope. Go back. I went backwards. I went too far. I'm sorry. All right. So determine whether the situation can involve negative numbers. Explain the reasoning. The number of points one team scores in a basketball game. Could you ever have a negative value on scoring points in a basketball game? I don't know. I've never seen any scores on a highlight saying, boy, this team really sucked. They scored -12 points. Right? I haven't seen that. So that's probably always got to be positive. The amount of money in a bank account. Yeah, unfortunately, you can go negative. You write a check for more than you have in your account, it becomes negative, and then the bank lets you know that not only do you have to replace that money, you got one done. Let me get you the second page. The second page you can use a calculator on. If you have a calculator, you need one. Not only do you have to pay back that money, thank you, for how much you owe, but you have a fine on top of that. So that kind of stinks. So you can have a negative amount of money in a bank account. Hopefully it's always positive for all of you. And then the difference in amount of electricity used on this month's bill compared to last month's. I think you could. You think?
If you solar panels or an electric.
You know what's funny is I have solar. So a couple years ago, we leased solar panels for our house. And when they built our system, they built it to accommodate about 125% of what my usage is. So if you go see my meter in my backyard, and I don't know if any of you have solar on your house or not. Anyone in here have solar? But my solar panel, my meter, it's digital, but it counts backwards. So it started at 0000, and then it went to 99999199992. It goes backwards. So I do something called net metering, which during the night I actually draw electricity from the grid, but I had put electricity into the grid to do it. So yes, you definitely could have a negative number, which is pretty cool. I mean, solar is a pretty neat thing. The cost that my solar panels cost me each month is less than what my electric bill would be. So it's kind of cool. I mean, I like what Dunn has done with my stuff. All right, so absolute value you told me is the distance away from zero. So how far is that from zero? 5. How far is this from 0? 10. So notice we lose the negative sign because we're just talking about a distance. Did you get done with that first page? Cool. Here's your second page. You can use the calculator on it if you need. Got one? Okay. All right. So we're going to compare these statements. So first off, how far away is that from 100? 82. And how far is this from 100? It's just 57, right? Distance is always going to be positive. Huh?
You're saying 100.
Oh, I'm so sorry. From 0. I'm so sorry. Darn. So which number is bigger, 82 or 57? So 82 is greater than that. What about negative 67 and negative 70? Which one is the further away from 0? 70, so the sign will go this way. What about this one? Which one's further away from 0? 91, so it's going that way. Remember, the teeth eat the larger. Okay, so the absolute value of negative 91 is 91. What about this one? Which one's further? 42? This one? 22? Last one? Equal. Same distance, right? We answered that appropriately? Is anybody stuck?
Wait, what was for the first one? Like the money and baby. Should we not anything faster?
No, we just talked it. All right. So absolute value of x equals 3 means absolute value of x
That
equals
X is 3.
3. Okay. So x
Or
is
negative 3.
good. Thank you for realizing that. X is equal to 3, and x is also to negative 3. Okay. Why do both of those work?
Because they're both 3 away from 0.
They're both 3 away from 0. I couldn't have said it any better. Okay? So notice if I have a variable, an x, and I'm doing the absolute value of it, and it says, hey, the absolute value of this variable is equal to this number, the answer is 2 answers, right? You get 2 answers that are available for you. Does that make sense? It's a distance away from 3. Can I move on? All right, now this one's a little bit different. Are we going to have 2 answers? Yeah, we got an absolute value. So what do you think? Go ahead.
It's -1 or 1.
Okay, well, let's take a look. I'm going to take this equation down here, and I'm going to make 2 things. Neither of them are going to have the absolute value sign. What did I just do? What's the difference between the 2 equations now? Yeah, you have one negative value right here. Okay, so there's an individual negative sign. That's the big difference. Agree? I need to solve both of these. These are 2 one-step equations. So I'm going to subtract 2, so I get x equals, what's 3 minus 2? 1. I'm going to subtract 2. What is negative 2 minus 3? Yeah, negative 5, good. Right? So we have 2 answers there. So I have positive 1, which is right here, and I have negative 5, which is right here. There's my 2 answers. Does that seem to be okay? Everyone all right?
Well, then, what if they have different absolute values there?
Well, we're talking about, that's just a distance away from something. So in this case, I think we're actually looking at what number is really in between here is the negative 2. So if I go, negative 2, which is right here, if I go 3 to the right, or if I go 3 to the left, that's what we're away from. So that grouping, that absolute value of negative 2 actually shifts my 0 to the left. It shifts my number. It shifts it to the left if it's positive, shifts it to the right if it's negative or positive. So x plus 2 shifts left, x minus 2 shifts right. You okay? Can I move on? So one note here is 2 problems. Okay? They're going to have to exist. So make sure you note that. Okay? 2 problems. If you only solve for one of them, you only did half the problem right. Can I move on? All right. So each of these are absolute value. This is going to be x minus 4 for one problem equals 6, and x minus 4 equals x minus 4 equals negative 6. There's my 2 problems right there. So add 4, add 4. X equals 10. Add 4. There's my 2 answers to my first problem. What about problem number 2? What 2 problems am I going to work out? Good. So there's your 2 problems there. So again, here I'm just going to add 4 to both sides. And then divide by 2. So I get x equals 7. And then do the same thing here. Add 4, add 4. Negative 10 added to 4 is negative 6. And then this I'm going to divide by 2, so I get negative 3. So my 2 answers are positive 7 and negative 3. Third problem is a trick. This is a trick to it. Is there any value you could think about that you could plug in for x that would give you a negative distance for an answer? I'll say that one more time. Is there any number that you think you might be able to plug in for x that once you do the, whatever the number is, added to 3 and then the absolute value, that's going to give you a negative value? So think about it. If I took like negative 100 and plugged it in, I get negative 100 plus 3, that's negative 97. Absolute value, negative 97 is positive 97. I can't make that negative. Plug 0 in. 0 added to 3 is 3. Absolute value of 3 is 3. If I were to plug in, say 1,000. 1,000 plus 3 is 1,003. Absolute value of 1,003 is 1,003. Is there anything I can plug in for x that's going to make that negative? Best answer is, can I have a negative distance? Hey, I'm going on a trip. How far are you driving? Oh, negative 12 miles. What? Can I do a negative distance? Put it in reverse. No, you're still driving a certain distance. You walk backwards, you're still walking a distance. You're still covering a distance that's measured as a positive unit. So can I do this problem? No. There's no solution here. Okay, and the reason is that negative that's outside of my absolute value sign. I can't create a negative distance. Okay, but with that known, if I put a negative sign in front here, if I put a negative sign in front there, that can change things. But I don't have that. So I have to say this one has no solution. Everyone happy? May I move on? Did you get that done? No. This is the last one? Okay. All right, so let's take what I just said and see if we can manipulate it. So I have this equal to a negative 4. Agree? So right now, your knowledge would say, hey, there's not a solution. But I have a minus 10 right here. So how can I move this minus 10 over? Yeah, if I add 10, and I add 10, what's negative 4 added to 10? How much? 6. Oh, that's going to work now. Agree? So my two answers, I have 3x plus 9 equals 6. And 3x plus 9 equals what? Negative 6. And solve both. Okay? So if I solve this top one, I subtract 9, subtract 9. So I get 3x is equal to negative 3. Divide by 3, so x equals negative 1. There's my first answer. Same thing here. Subtract 9, subtract 9. 3x is equal to negative 15. Divide each side by 3, so x equals negative 5. So this one, even though I had a negative over here originally, being I did not have this negative 10 grouped, I was able to add it over, so it creates a true statement. What do you think I should do with number 5? I have a 4 in front of the absolute value. Go ahead. Okay, I like your thinking, but that absolute value sign is kind of goofy. So let's not always assume that it's just going to be like parentheses. If it was like 4 parentheses, 2x plus 7, I'm with you 100%. Absolute value's got little different properties. So what would another move be? I like your thinking, though. This is saying 4 times the absolute value, so how would I move that over? Huh? I heard it. Yeah, so can I do this? Is that okay? Because 16 over 4 is 4. And then create my two equations. So I have 2x plus 7 is equal to 4. And then I have 2x plus 7 equals negative 4. Minus 7. So divide by, that's a 3, excuse me. So now I'm going to get x equals negative 3 over 2. There's one answer. Subtract 7, subtract 7. Divide by 2. What do you think? Two answers? Because it's the distance. Okay, I like the idea with distributing. If that was parentheses all day long, but that absolute value is a goofier operation. So let's not always trust it, but let's go with the dividing. I like it. Is this it? Or is there any more slides? Nope. That's it?
There's one more slide from the guy in there.
Oh. Don't do number 13 in homework. Uh-oh. Let's see what this is. All right, so I want to do two things. What page, which is the homework today? What do you got? It would have been today's the 27th, right? What page you on? 15, 16? Done. Oh, thank you. All right. All right, we can do that. So let's have us do page 15. And there's a special thing about page 16. Did everyone discover that yet? It's blank. So I'm giving you the opportunity to start this. So let's get a good start on it. But while you're kind of starting on it, I'm going to get your test back to you. Cool?